The following is my conversation with Juansi Vivo. Juansi is an influential cycling thought leader known for his candid industry critiques. If you've been on LinkedIn in the last 6 to 12 months, I'm sure you've seen his posts, as he posts every single day on cycling topics, particularly business and provocative cycling topics. He details his journey in the interview from a secure Spanish academic career to follow his passion in the world of cycling. We explore his central crucial argument that the cycling business is failing by only marketing to enthusiasts, and that it's time to stop speaking in watts and grams and start engaging in the 95% of the population that we are currently ignoring, as he calls the Los Ignorados. This is the Business of Cycling podcast. Juansi Vivo, thank you so much for coming on today. You are a common view in my LinkedIn feed, as to many people in the industry. So congratulations on all your success recently. It looks like you have found a voice on, kind of a thought leader, opinion leader in the business. So I'm really excited to be able to talk to you and kind of hear some of your thoughts on some things. It's fun to see you, kind of pushing the conversation from a business side. We're kind of similar in that regard. So I'm super excited to talk. So we did pick kind of one topic today to speak about, which is really, which we'll get into in a minute. But before we get started, where does this podcast find you today?
I'm at home. I work remote at home. I live in Switzerland. I've been living here. This is my second stage here in Switzerland. This one is going already longer than 13 years. And yeah, I cannot complain. This is a good place to live in. Not cheap, but this topic about Swiss precision, everything works, and so on. It's quite true. So yeah, it's nice living here. There's a lot of good places for riding bikes. My kids are growing in a very nice environment, and yeah, I cannot complain.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things. I've been to Switzerland a couple times. It is expensive, I can confirm, but it's a wonderful
It
place.
is. It
And
is. It
so,
is expensive. It's expensive.
I guess maybe just to get started, typically what we do is we kind of run through just a brief kind of overview of your background, kind of where you're from, where you grew up, your early life. You want to just jump in there?
Yeah, sure. I'm Spanish. I was born in Alicante 52 years ago. I spent all my life in Alicante, actually, my studies, even my first stage in the adulthood phase. Let's put it like that. Until something happened in my life. I have one of those moments in life in which you reflect about where to go, what to do, the why, the what, where, and I made a strong decision, a really heavy decision. I decided to put together what I loved and work. I've always been a big sports guy in terms of doing a lot of sports. It's not that I was good, but I was doing a lot of sports. So I love biking. And I decided to try and put together work, try to find a work in the bike industry. At the moment, I was very well. I was living a good life in Alicante. I had a very good work. I was a project manager at the University of Alicante. And when I communicated my decision to my family, to my friends, no one understood really why. That moment, that was the moment when in Spain, economy was absolutely going amazing. Everything was looked promising, and no one really understood why I was leaving. And what it was meant to be 1 year trial in living outside of Spain, it's become already more than 20 years. My studies, I studied in the university where I worked. My studies had nothing to do with biking whatsoever or sports. By degree, I'm an English teacher. Actually, I used to speak way better English than now, more accurate, more academic. But speaking good English what was what made easy for me to find a job in the bike industry actually.
So
So
you
I have
had
to
like
be
a
thankful for that.
so you had like a really solid kind of comfortable job at a university in Spain, right? Like this is like the type of job
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
people kind of aspire to, right? Because you have a
yeah,
salary, there's a budget, so
yeah, yeah.
you don't have to worry about, any sort of bumps in the road in terms of losing your job. So this was
Nothing,
comfortable.
nothing. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so did you have a family at that time?
No, no, I was single. I had, well, a girlfriend. I was living with my girlfriend, but I didn't have kids. The job was amazing, good, well paid. 2 months of holidays per year. So imagine. And that's why no one understood why I was doing it. But the thing is that my dad died very suddenly. He had a massive heart attack. It really took us by surprise. I mean, that someone close to you dying, it's always a surprise, right? But that one was even a bigger surprise. And it made me reflect a lot. My dad always did what he loved. He was a teacher. That's why I became a teacher as well. But he was in love with his profession. And I took him as an example and I decided to follow my passion. And I have to say that he was not wrong. And I was not wrong making that decision because honestly, passion is that what has helped me to go through the bad times. And these last 20 years in the industry have been like a roller coaster. Very good moments, bad moments, or or at least not that good, and that the passion has helped me to go through them. So seeing that decision in the perspective, I think I did the right thing. Absolutely.
So you probably what, were about 35 years old, 35 years old, and you decided,
Yeah.
I figured this out. I see that I can get this, I've got this job. And you said, hang on, like my father has passed away. Like this is a short life we have here. So I need to make sure that I'm, doing what drives me. So you said to yourself, okay, I got to try this. If I don't try it now, maybe I never will. So you made this choice and you jumped into the cycling industry. What was the first kind of, it looks like you were working with Cannondale,
Yes, I started working with Cannondale in the really at the bottom of the food chain
right?
as an inside sales manager. I was the guy who was the contact guy for the sales force on the ground in Spain and Portugal. I was the guy on the phone in front of the laptop, in front of the computer, controlling how the orders were moving, deliveries. So yeah, it was a really humble beginning because I was coming from a background in the University in Alicante where I had a team of 15 people working for me or with me. I was the responsible of a big team at the University of Alicante, and it was a whole change starting from almost scratch. But it was good. It was good. I learned a lot during my first 3 years in Cannondale in Basel. They used to have an office in Switzerland at that time. I learned a lot from the industry. I learned a lot of bikes. I even took care of the tech service of Cannondale in a moment when the lefties were collapsing five every week. So it was a really, it was a really, oh my God, what am I doing here? Well, because I'm not a very techy guy in regards of bikes. Yes, I can repair my bike. I keep it in good shape. But this thing with the lefties, it was a steep learning curve from me. It took me some good effort to deal with that, but it was great. Really, I had a lot of fun, and the team that we had over there at the office, all the inside sales from Italy, from Germany, all of them were in the same space. It was really cool. It was really cool. It was fun, and at some point, I had the opportunity to. When the president, the general manager of Canada Europe was promoted to be president or CEO of Canada USA, he asked me if I wanted to join him, going to the US because they were looking for a guy to take care of developing the markets in Latin America. And I said, "Are you asking me to go to live to the US?" And I said, "Absolutely. Where do I have to sign?
You wanted to
Where do I have
go.
to sign?" And oh, absolutely, of course. I was kind of living in the US.
Yeah.
Really? Are you asking me? Are you asking? Well, they vetted me, right? I went through a process of interviews, meeting people in in Canada, USA, there has to be a good match, right, between all the team
Sure.
members, and it was good. So yeah, it was great. Those 3 years living in the US, working for Cannondale. Well, at that moment, Cannondale was already part of the Dorel group, so it was a multi-brand. It was Cannondale, GT, Schwinn, and Mongoose, the four brands that I was they were under my responsibility. And yeah, it was super cool developing the markets in Latin America for the four brands. Amazing. It was an experience like had ever happened in my life, ever. It took me to amazing places. I was able to meet amazing people with which I'm still in contact with, actually. They're my friends. And I learned a lot about cycling. Cycling seen from a very different perspective, because most of the people is not aware of it, but cycling is popular in Latin America. Well, yes, people think about Colombia, for example, because Colombia has produced so many good racers that cycling in Colombia, there's a good visibility there of the sports in Colombia. But in the lesser in the rest of Latin America, it's popular as well. It's very popular and it's very cool.
So you kind of you found your voice. It looks like you're like, okay, this is where I need to be. This is where I want to be. And so, I mean, I'm looking at your, your work history, and you then began like just kind of all across. You went from Cannondale, then to BMC, then to Orbea, then to
Hmm.
Intense.
Yeah, I've been
Forestall,
around.
Kona. Like you're, it looks like you did. And explain this to me. It looks like you were doing about 1 to 2 years in each company. Why so many
Mhm.
moves? Like it looks like you moved around a
Well,
lot.
BMC, when I moved back to Europe, I decided that I didn't want to. It's something that I decided long ago. My son was born in the U.S. actually. I decided that I didn't want him to be raised in the U.S.
Your son was born in the U.S.
Basically
and you
because
didn't want him, to be raised in so you're like, I want to go back to Spain.
yeah. So
Why did you make that decision?
well, the way education goes in the U.S. and the kids, I think is not the right one. I don't share their approach to
Okay.
education
Right.
in schools. It's very it always it's very much related to at what school you study so that you can evolve in life, basically. So that's very I don't think that's fair. They
Sure.
don't really measure the capabilities of the individual, but they just take a look of where you studied. That's it. So but then something happened when I was still in Cannondale, is the Newtown massacre. This youngster that got into one school with some machine guns and killed 17 kids. That happened 5 miles away from the office where Cannondale was based in
Wow.
Bethel, in
It was a
Connecticut.
mass shooting.
And some of my, yeah, the mass shooting, yeah. But I'm speaking about that 17 kids, 5 and 6 year old kids died. And that really hit me strong, really close, because some of my former colleagues in Cannondale, some of them had kids in that school. Then I made the decision, we're going back. We're going back. Besides, I wanted my kid to be closer to our extended family.
Sure.
And the BMC proposal came, and I accepted it. So we moved back to Switzerland. But then I had some private issues in my problems in my life. I went through a rough divorce. If a divorce can be not rough, please, I would like to hear about it. But mine was, well, it gets complicated, right? So that affected heavily my professional performance, really heavily, and that took me to be unstable. My private life was affecting my professional life, and that's why I had to leave BMC and I joined Orbea. I was in Orbea almost for a year, but things didn't go well there because I was the only team member at the moment that was working remote, and that made it very complicated to the point that they were starting to suggest me that I had to move to the Basque Country, and that was not possible for me because I had my kid being raised here.
Sure.
And the fact that I always gave priority to being in Switzerland with my son, because My ex-wife lives nearby, so my kid is able to go from one place to the other walking. We live 5 minutes away
Sure.
from each other. So I wanted to be with my son, and that I made it a priority, and that's been one of the big obstacles of
Sure.
why I've not been able to stay long in one project. Because until the pandemics hit us, working remote was seen as something like, oh,
Right. Right.
this
Right.
guy spends the whole day in PJs at home, drinking cocktails while replying a couple of emails per day. So that's why I've been so mobile up and down during those years.
Right. You've had to kind
That's
of
mainly the reason.
make it compatible with the family, which means kind of you've had to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
kind of dynamic with all this. No, I totally get it.
Yeah, it's a
And so,
choice. It's a choice I made, and because of that, honestly, I had to give it a pass to many good opportunities. On the other hand,
sure. Sure. Yeah.
that's the
No, it's
reality.
hey, it's Wyatt here. So here's a stat that should get every cycling brand's attention. 65% of all product searches now begin on Amazon. Not your website, not retailer sites, Amazon. Here's a question for any brand managers or business owners listening. Do you know who's selling your brand products on Amazon right now? Chances are your distributors and dealers are already there. And if you're not actively managing that presence, you're losing control of pricing, brand story, and your customer experience. So my agency works exclusively with cycling brands, and we help build and manage their Amazon presence, from listing optimization to driving sales, as well as Amazon advertising. We've helped brands increase their revenue by 50 to 70% in just the first year. So if you're interested, you can drop me an email at wyatt@velomedia.io. That's wyatt@velomedia.io. Now let's get back to the show. In all this time, you were mostly looks like on the sales side. And so you're working
Yeah,
with brands, helping with, and obviously all this experience has informed, your kind of,
understanding.
it's, yeah, like, cause you're bringing like what people, if people don't follow you or the people that do follow, like you just like, you are bringing new and interesting ideas to, to the space every single day. You're posting every single, and we'll get into that. But it feels like, from a sales side that you've seen, a lot of aspects of this business. And so that kind of informed this, this project that you're doing now. So what kind of brought you to this, this project that you're doing now with regards to, like, at some point you're like, I'm going to start posting every single day on LinkedIn. Like, why did you start doing that?
One of the things that, because of work, I've traveled a lot. So I've seen one of the things that really most surprised me in the beginning is that the passion that people feel for bikes, it's the same, no matter if people is in Poland, if they are in Santiago de Chile, or they are in San Jose de Costa Rica. The passion is the same one. But then, once you get to understand that, you can see that social, the social environments in which this happen are so diverse, plural, and absolutely different one from the other, that if you don't see that in person, you would not ever imagine how diverse the cycling community can get to be. You can see many different understandings of what the bikes are. The passion is the same, but bikes at the end of the day is the common place where many different people from the world come to enjoy and to share. That as well allowed me to see many different social realities in many different countries and the real potential of what bikes are. I've always been interested in understanding what's behind of the operation of a distributor, for example, being in touch with their workers, not just only with the bosses, moving around in the cities where they do the business. And at some point, I was in very real danger because of doing that, because places like Sao Paulo or Mexico, DF, the capital in Mexico, those places can be dangerous if you are identified as an stranger, right? But well, the thing is that I always want to have a whole picture of what's going on around bikes, and that has given me a very wide vision and understanding what's going on in the industry, and not just
Sure.
focus on sales. Sales is what I've been doing. That's true, but all the information that I got into my head, by experiencing different ways of understanding and enjoying cycling is what brought me at the point in which I am right now. Besides, I consider myself a very social guy. I like having long discussions with friends and colleagues all around the industry, having their inputs, their opinions, their ideas. And this summer, everything clicked because on the one hand, this summer, it was the first summer for a long time that me and my wife were alone at home because we were able to allocate our kids to the grandparents. So we found ourselves with with a lot of time, a lot of free time, and and I decided to use the time to so that I was feeling productive because I promised that the first week that this happened, I was feeling guilty, like anxious. I didn't have breakfast to prepare. I didn't have to push anyone to get out of home, to get on time to school. So I decided to start writing in LinkedIn about the things I was seeing. You see, just simply as that, my opinion. I never try to lecture anyone. I'm just sharing my opinion with the, I always like doing it with a pinch of humor, if possible, some irony. I think that helps and it makes it like more dynamic. And yeah, not being afraid of speaking out my mind because that's one of the sad things that I realize it happens in the industry, that
Sure.
we
Yeah.
all have a lot of
I
these
see that. A
discussions,
lot of reservations.
yeah,
Totally.
right? Between the four walls, we say a lot of shit, and excuse my French.
Mm.
But then when we go into a public forum, everyone is afraid of speaking out their mind, saying what they
Well,
really think. And
yeah.
not
Yeah, there
everyone, sorry, not everyone. Not everyone.
no, but there
But
there
it happens
are
quite.
there are some and I run into this too where a lot of times like the media has sort of has very little incentive to say what they really like to say anything negative about the brands because typically the media is being supported by the brands, right? That's just not like that's not a controversial thing to say. It's just reality. And so up until
Yeah,
now, the media typically was part of the media, the journalism part of it was okay. I'll write about this bike because they're going to I'll write about 10 bikes and some of those bikes are going to be have sponsorship with the publications, right? It's just the way it's always been. And so there is some sort of kind of incestual I guess you could say incestual interests at stake here. And so I sort of stumbled into this with my podcast and where I can sometimes be very candid about certain aspects of the business, but you really took it to another level where you were really like, no, 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 this is what's happening. And there really wasn't a platform for that before, was there? I mean, did you ever see anything like that before where someone could be very candid about what they see in the business?
no, not that I
Right.
remember. No, yeah, yeah,
Right.
it's
I-
true. I mean, the thing about LinkedIn is that it's an open platform, but then again, I'm really being honest with you because, for example, I have an idea how the people speak about the algorithm of LinkedIn, like if they were speaking about the secret formula of the Coca-Cola. Huh?
I
They
see
said,
people
oh, the
sometimes
algorithm in
people
LinkedIn.
people take shots at you. They're like, "Oh, he's just gaming the algorithm." It's like, well, I mean, LinkedIn is built
Yeah,
to keep people interested. So he's writing things that are interesting. If you want to call that gaming the
yeah,
algorithm, I guess okay, but like, what's the difference
yeah,
of writing something interesting and gaming the algorithm? It's sort of the same thing, right?
yeah. I agree, 100%.
I mean,
Well, I never heard about that.
those platforms are built to get people on and to get them engaged. And if you're engaged, then they're going to reward what you're writing.
Yeah. I never care about that actually. But to me, for example, it was a big surprise when I started writing and I started seeing that what I was writing was getting traction. It was a like, whoa, look at this. People is reading people is reading what I'm writing. This is unbelievable. Wow, it's cool. I like it. Let's keep on doing it. So I challenge myself to do it on a daily basis, writing about different things. So sometimes it's not easy because there I honestly
Every day is a lot. Yeah.
I sometimes I feel that well, daily it's a lot, eh? It's not easy at all, eh? But you know what happens is that when I don't have inspiration about my own topics, is that reality and daily life gives me topics to write about. So that I try to mix it to make it like interesting, like some kind of variety on what I write about, not always focusing on the same topics, because otherwise people would get bored. But yeah, everything comes out of my mind, comes out of discussions that I have with people in the industry,
Well, in your
comes out from
experience,
discussions that
20,
I have.
and you're
Yes,
20 years in the
absolutely.
industry. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because listen, Wyatt, I've seen so many things happening once and again in this industry. Once and again,
Over and
once
over
and
and over,
again,
over and
once and
again.
again,
Yeah. Over and over.
over and over. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. Same mistakes, very few successes repeating once and again. It's mostly crashes and it's mostly mistakes. And they happen over and over, over and over. And these kind of hot topics that I keep on writing about, they are still out there. And but the interesting thing is that they've been out there for years. I'm not here discovering anything new. That's the thing. It's not a secret, the stuff I'm writing about and I'm speaking loud about. It's not. But I'm doing it with clarity, with a lot of one of the first things that I usually do when I'm putting myself in an environment I don't feel an expert about is saying it. Like, hey guys, this is my opinion, but I'm not an expert. I just see this. And it's happened that a couple of times people that knew way more than me came to me, touched with me, private messages, which I appreciate. I would not have been worried if they had done it in public, honestly. It would have been okay as well. But they were kind of polite enough as to do it in public to explain me that I was wrong and explain me why I was wrong. And I really said, thank you, guys. I had no idea that this was like this. I will try to do it better the next time. And if possible, I will edit what I've written or I will add an extra explanation to say that I was not right. But interestingly enough, these have been a few exceptions. In most of the occasions, most of the things that I'm writing, I'm usually spot on. Well, not spot on would not be the word, sorry, but I'm kind of on the right on the topic. And most of the topics are right about because of the limitations of LinkedIn. Some a couple of 3 or 4 weeks ago, I decided to open a blog to be able to write more because some of the topics are really heavy and they can give a lot of substance to write more. But in any case, I write what I feel comfortable about and what it really inspires me. There really needs to be a kick on my head so that I move it. And this inspiration can come from the most unexpected source, to be honest. I mean, yesterday, for example, I wrote a post all in a sudden because I had a discussion, I had a conversation with my wife about bike brands, and she really made me think about a couple of things that I had not thought about before. And I said, "Oh, look at this! This is a good idea." But I was not looking for that when I was discussing with my wife in the morning while we were drinking coffee.
Sure.
So
It's
sometimes,
sort of a mindset where you're kind of
yeah,
trying to find ways, and it's creativity, and we're in the same kind of in the same boat because I write a blog and I have my podcast. Not I don't have the frequency,
uh,
but I'm always looking for ways that to bring, like, for me personally, and I think for you as well, it's like you're trying to bring value So if you bring value to the industry, they'll reward you by following you and being engaged in the conversation. So if you're able to bring that, people will want to be part of that. And I think that is, it's actually not that dissimilar to opinion writers in newspapers back, because you and I were
True.
were around the same age, and that was the role in the past where you had an opinion writer that brought up some concepts, and that was they were part of a newspaper. Now this is sort of the evolution of that opinion leadership. So one topic that you and I so for the conversation today, we had one topic that we wanted to discuss, and
Yeah.
I want to jump into this, kind of double click on it, which was the ignored segment of the cycling business, which is something that you were. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the los ignorados that you called it, kind of what this concept's
Los
about, and
Ignorados.
kind of how you're building on this?
Yeah, yeah. This is my. I think it's more than a theory. Well, it's the fact that I believe that the cycling industry is ignoring. That's why ignorados. Ignorados in English is a Spanish word actually. In English means the ignored ones. But in my opinion, the cycling industry has been ignoring for a long time and still do, ignoring a big part of the population that could become maybe in a more or less easy way part of the cycling community. Bikers, people who ride bikes, part of the community. Fundamentally, because what the industry does is creating products for those who are already bike people. They do create products for people who is bike people, and they communicate those products in such a way that they only reach those who are already in the community. So it's somehow an inbreeding that is happening in the bike industry, and that
Inbreeding.
means very roughly, yeah,
Inbreeding.
inbreeding. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Inbreeding.
It's inbreeding. So
No, you're right. You're
it's
right.
it's
You're right.
it's it's somehow inbreeding that roughly eyeballing, I would say that we are ignoring 95, more than 95% of the population doing so. So,
Okay, so
and there are
let me
several
try and
groups.
step back. So you're saying that the the style and method that brands speak to their customers over media and marketing and everything is very enthusiast focused, and it's focused on language and imagery that only talks to people that are already pretty deep into the sport, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes,
And that
in short, yes.
brands are leaving money on the table, so to speak, by not speaking to people that maybe are new to the sport or don't understand the sport. And I had this when we spoke. I had this conversation with a couple people, and they don't argue with you, like they don't push back much. But some of the pushback that I got was, well, when people first approach the sport, they're always going to defer to someone that knows about the sport, or defer to someone that, when they want to get into cycling, they're going to ask their bike shop, or they're going to ask, someone that's really good at cycling. So at the end of the day, they sort of already are communicating to those people. They're always going to just go to their opinion leader that's already in the business. That was one pushback that I got. They said, well, sure, but it's just, and then the other pushback was, you just can't find these people. It's such a big, huge swath, and the budgets in cycling are so tight that to go and try and put a toe into that ocean, it's just so hard to do. I mean, what do you say to that?
There's a misconception on how to approach this population. I will call no, no, I will call no, I will not call them population. I will call them group. Okay, but there is a misconception, and you just mentioned it. I think that the fact that we're approaching them from the sports side of cycling is a big mistake, because these people, in most of the occasions, the easier, best way to entry to our community is just thinking about a tool, a device to go from A to B, because that's what they need. Then that would be the catalyzer in order to speak about sports down the road later on. But that's one of the big problems that the industry has, that is having this kind of sports performance approach in order to try to reach and communicate with these potential users. And that's the big mistake. It's like if the industry is speaking in English and that other group is speaking in Russian.
Okay, but
They will
what
never
then?
get the
What is
message.
then? What is the language that they should be using?
Well, instead of speaking about well, right now, because it's the language that we speak in our industry, right? Watts, Newton meters, grams in the frame, how many kilometers you can do in the range. No, you have to explain what the experience is, what the tool is useful for, what advantages can you generate if you use a bike instead of use a car to go downtown in the city. What brands do you know of that they use this language to promote the product? Maybe some. You might come with some names, but the big ones, none of them, because they're pretty much focusing what you just said, sports. So the thing is that you come with this to these potential end consumers speaking about newtons, and let's face it, in most of the occasions, Newton, when the people that is not in biking, is not used to deal with bikes, listen the word Newton, most possibly they'll relate it with, they will connect it with that guy with the apple, right? And I'm not speaking about Steve Jobs. I'm speaking about Newton, the
Isaac
the the,
Newton.
the
Yeah,
physics,
no.
the English guy
So,
that found the gravity. So
well, one thing that makes me think of this topic is Rafa. Like Rafa had a visual language, and some of the clothing brands have a visual language that is more
amazing.
aspirational, right? Where travel,
Yep.
aspiration to travel, and I feel like
Yep.
they kind of cracked this a little bit in a sense
Yep.
that like they gave you this sort of aspirational side where it wasn't sports focused. What are some other maybe examples that you see of brands? Because I totally agree with you, like in the sense that like it's just easier for these brands, the way that I see it, to speak to an enthusiast group because the enthusiasts sort of they identify themselves, and so they're from a very technical standpoint, they're you can find them, and because they they follow certain blogs and they follow certain they're in certain communities. So and community is hugely important for cycling because it's a way that you're able to kind of build on your customer base. Do you have any examples or some projects that you're working on where that can kind of give some people some ideas of like examples of people that brands are doing this well, or kind of what you're working on, or what sort of because it's easy to talk about the problem, but let's talk about
Yes,
what's the
I absolutely, I absolutely agree. But it's great. But it's great. I wish I could be working in this that I'm going to tell you about. I wish, because these guys really nailed it and really hit a home run.
Who?
Very recent. Also, have you seen
Also,
what they've done?
no. Tell us about it.
No.
No. Also.
Also is a mobility spin-off of Rivian. Do you know Rivian? Rivian
Oh
is
yes,
a
yes. I
electric.
apologize. I do know what you're talking about. Yep. They
Okay.
just came out
Listen, it's the
with.
it's the first it's the first one that I see and I say, oh my God, it's not
Yep. They went.
impossible.
You're right.
Someone is doing it for real.
Yep.
And it's great because to be honest, at some point I was starting to be desperate in terms of maybe embracing in the desert, maybe I'm not
You're
right.
screaming
In
howling at the
some,
moon.
yeah, falling at the moon. Maybe it's not possible. Maybe I'm just having this kind of dreams that are not absolutely doable whatsoever. But there you go. These guys came and did it. So, but on how they did it, I think that these guys were very clever. Most of them have people that is not from the industry, so they brought a lot of experience and understanding and know-how that has not been contaminated somehow. I mean, this contaminated thing sounds terrible, I know, but they came with a
Contaminate. No, you're right.
fresh.
Yeah, it's fresh. They sort of put their foot into like they touched on sort of the excitement around electrification of automobiles, right? That's what they did. They were
Yeah.
able to, and you said the
Mm,
Rivian collaborate, like they're part of Rivian. So they're able to say, okay, look,
yeah.
mobility, electric mobility is, what Tesla and Rivian have done is, sort of been a huge shift in transportation for auto transportation. And so they were able to kind of just take that tailwind and move
Yeah.
there. But that's 100%. They're there. They're doing it. We'll see, the numbers. We'll see what the numbers are eventually, if they are able to actually get some momentum. But okay, so that's one example. 100%.
Yeah.
What are some other examples that you're looking at, that you're seeing, or I guess I'm just other than Rivian and this also project, which we should all kind of be. You would think that like brands would be calling up also and say, hey, can we get can we get one of these? Can we be part of this? If they're doing something really innovative, what are some other kind of, because again, I want to bring some value to the people that are listening here. What are some other ways that you are seeing this, that you want to move this concept forward?
I see that there are brands right now out there working on changing the way they communicate themselves, not only the product. This is not a product problem. Well, product to some extent is part of the problem. Let me rephrase it. But fundamentally, what has happened in the last year, and I'm speaking about the long period. I say last years, but it's not only 3 or 4 years. I would say like it's more than 20 to 25 years actually, is that the brands they have been too much focused in speaking about the product and they have not spoken about themselves, about what they stand for, what they're bringing to the market, what the experience is. They have not been speaking about what cycling is for real. So we ended up selling ingredients instead of holistic experiential products. You know, you go now to any web page of any brand manufacturer. One of the first things that you will see what engine is an e-bike. Okay, I'm speaking of an e-bike, but it's the same with
Right.
transmissions.
Which, yeah,
They
the
yeah,
watts, the group set, it's all sort of driven by the products and the features. And I think you had posted about the new Orbea
video, huh?
campaign, draw the line, which I
Yeah,
thought was really
yeah,
powerful. And before you
yeah.
before you wrote, a coworker of mine sent it to me and was like, man, someone is finally tapping into emotions.
I
and
agree.
um, and
I agree.
I think what you're saying too is like, not only are we ignoring new people, but I think we're ignoring the emotional side of the experience.
That's the most powerful asset that we have in our hands. But the reality is that we don't know how to use it because it requires an effort actually, It's way easier to communicate numbers that instead
That are objective.
speaking about yes. So we became and I'm part of it, huh? Listen, because
Well, it's
it's not
easier.
that
It's easier because you go in there
it,
with
it's
draw.
it's way easier. We became super lazy, extremely lazy. Now we
You go,
don't even care about digging deep in order to bring out the real message that the brands are putting on the table. We don't really care. Very few brands are doing that. Very few. Only a handful, I would say. And they do it like being ashamed of doing it because they look over the shoulder and they see the rest of the field still doing the same numbers orgy because it's a numbers orgy.
yeah,
And
well, yeah. I mean, it.
and the most yeah,
No,
it's
you're.
a numbers orgy. How big is your battery? The question out there. How big is your battery? How many newton meters is the engine that you use is giving you? Oh, only 100? Oh, mine is 120. Mine is bigger. This is this is always, comes down to the which one has the bigger one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which
It's
of
a
which of
measuring. It's a
us has the
measuring
bigger?
contest at a certain level. So, and again, like someone comes into, and a marketing person comes in, or a brand manager, and says, "Hey, let's have a campaign and call it Draw the Line." I
Amazing, huh?
mean, I mean, people are going to say,
Amazing.
well, it's risky. Yeah, it's risky. It's risky,
It's risky.
a-
It is.
and it takes guts, and it takes, and cycling's been a little bit, traumatized in the last few years, right? So I think everybody sort of retreated to what they know. I think it's sort of probably a result of the situation in which we find ourselves. But whoever can get out of that and kind of step outside of it is probably going to have some big rewards at the end of the day.
Yeah, on regards of this video, I remember that because some other reason I was exchanging messages with a former colleague from Orbea because I was asking him a couple of things, and we were discussing about exactly this topic. I had seen their teaser that they put in LinkedIn, like draw the line. Honestly, in the beginning, I thought that they had made a mistake and someone had forgot to edit a video or something because it was just a blank canvas with a black line in the middle, and it was a draw the line. And when I saw it, I saw, what the hell is this? Okay, fine. I will not keep pay attention to this. It's a waste of time. So that day, speaking with Ander told me, oh, now that we're talking about this topic of the communication, the message, blah blah blah, tomorrow we're coming up with one video. I want you to see it. Maybe you don't relate to it. The next morning he sent me the video on YouTube actually, so that I did not miss it. I saw it and I had to call him to really congratulate him. Tell him, guys, you really made me happy because once again, if you're going down this road and you're pushing this message like in the long run, you are doing something that I was hoping someone to start doing as soon as possible.
Right.
So if they go for the long run with this one, and I believe that they will do, hey, hats off to them because they are starting something that I hope more people will start following. I hope so.
So I
But
guess
really, it's a really, really, really
this is
good
sort of
page.
a validation of the work that you're doing. And so I guess in addition to the work you mentioned you're doing, I know you're doing a keynote for an event for Thule in
Yeah,
in
in Sweden,
Sweden. In Sweden, that's amazing.
yeah, in
What other
Malmö.
what other sort of stuff are you working on?
Well, I'm now really involved in with 41 Publishing. Coming up with these papers about the event they had last month in October. It was a think tank that took place in Brixen in northern Italy, in which part of the industry we discussed about, and this was one of the topics we discussed about, that we discussed what the industry has been doing wrong, what needs to be done in order to fix the situation in we are at, this kind of heavy topic discussions, but it was very productive. So we came up with 11 different papers about the discussions we had over there. We analyze the situation, we come up with proposals to fix the problems that we're dealing with. It's going to be interesting. It's a very editorial content, but we believe that will ignite the debate in the industry, and everyone will be willing to be part of it because we believe that it's one of the things that is missing, and we're not talking openly among each other in the industry about the problems that we are being affected by. It's like no one wants to talk about the elephant in the middle of the room, but the elephant,
Right.
the elephant is still there, and we are pushing for that discussion to be active and productive. So that really makes me happy to be part of this process with Robin, Max, and their team. They're amazing, and we have a lot of ideas on the pipeline that I think I cannot tell you more about about the year because they are not finalized, but soon they will be. But they look really really promising. And besides that, I'm in discussion with different brands in the industry, to help them to go the right way. You see, I mean, the brands have really, I think that the brands have really opened their ears and they understand that things need to change for the good because we cannot keep on playing the game with the same rules and with the same playing style that we've done it in the last 20 years because it's going nowhere. People, people is aware that change has to happen. And in order change to happen, you need to change the things you do. You cannot keep on doing the things the same way that they've been done in the last 20, 30 years.
No, this is awesome. That I'm really thankful that you're doing what you're doing. I think it's like I said, I feel like a kind of a how do you call it, a brotherhood in what we're doing. We're able to kind of fuel our passion around the business and around cycling, to kind of bring new ideas and hopefully hopefully can continue to do this. So thank you for coming on today, Juansi, and if people want to get in touch with you, where's a good place to find you? I think I know the answer to this one.
LinkedIn.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
no problem. They
Yeah,
just look for me, Juansi Vivo, and they will find me there. I reply to everyone. That's something that I'm proud of of doing, because I hate when people does not reply to me. So everyone that sends me a message, I always reply, even if it's just with a short, sorry, but I cannot do more right now. So
yeah.
yeah, they
No,
can find me in LinkedIn very, very easily.
I appreciate that. I try to do that. I think I'm pretty close to being perfect on that. So, well, cool. Thanks so much, Juansi, and hopefully we can get together in person sometime very soon.
Looking forward, Wyatt. It will be my
Okay.
pleasure.
Okay. Thank you.